The college football playoff to me is an absolute mess. I think it's an absolute mess for most people. For me specifically, when I say that the college football playoff is an absolute mess, here's what I mean by that. Welcome on in. It is From the Bleachers here on the Fan Sports Network. My name is Caden Formaster. Thank you so much for joining me here today in this brand new season of what is From the Bleachers. The show has morphed over the years. It has started out as a radio show where that's all it was, strictly a radio show. Posting some podcasts here and there. Those are still available. You can go find them over wherever it is that you probably found this podcast, but specifically on our podcast page. And you can go find that on thefansportsnetwork.com or wherever it is that you find your podcasts. Plenty of great interviews over there with some of our favorites and good conversations with myself and either co-hosts from the past or whatnot. But things have changed. And From the Bleachers is back now, brand new season. Brand new start. It's a new year, 2026. We're just diving on into the new year. So why not start up the podcast again? Why not bring back From the Bleachers? So if you are new here, first off, welcome. Second off, let me describe to you what From the Bleachers is, okay? As I mentioned before, it was a radio show. It started out with myself and Mark Musgrave, who was a co-host of mine for many years. And, things happen. People have things pop up in their lives where they move on. And that happened with Mark, where he moved on from the show to chase some better opportunities, which, I always love it when people are chasing opportunities. So good for him for chasing those things. And then it morphed into some other things. I had other co-hosts. I had other things going on. Well, it's to the point now where I myself have a lot going on as well. So we're taking the show that was once strictly radio show, and we're now putting it into podcast form, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. So it's a digital age that we live in. And as fun as radio is, and it's great, and I still have my foot in that door for sure. I mean, we're in the radio studio right now. We are also moving into a digital world. And so podcasting is kind of the way to go. And so we're bringing you an on-demand version of the show with From the Bleachers. Now, here's the thing. From the Bleachers has also been a regional radio show where I've talked a lot about stuff going on in my local area. From the Bleachers is going to change. Okay, this is one of the biggest changes that we have right now with the show. Okay, and that is that this show is going to be focused more on stuff going on all across the country. Okay, this is like the national version of the show. If you are looking for local content to what I normally have talked about in the past with Southern Utah-based things, there is another podcast that I'm doing called the Southern Utah Sports Report. And you can find that wherever you find your podcasts and on the fansportsnetwork.com. So with that said, we have two podcasts, From the Bleachers, a little bit more broad as far as geographical boundaries go, and the Southern Utah Sports Report to talk about sports going on right here in Southern Utah. So if you are not a fan of Southern Utah sports, if you don't even know anything about Southern Utah sports, you are in the right place because this is where we just talk about sports, which is great. All right, introduction out of the way. Again, things are changing, things are moving. We're just going to be here having some fun, and we're talking some sports, all right? Some of the hot topics going on at the moment in sports, that is really what we're going to be getting into and diving into. And, of course, right now that means a few things. NFL playoffs are here. College football playoffs are here. And a few more. We're in the midst of it with the college football playoffs. I think that's really where a lot of everybody's mindset is right now is locked in onto what's going on with the college football playoffs and, of course, the beginnings of the NFL playoffs. That's going to be coming up here in just a few weeks, over the course of the next few weeks, I should say. And there's a lot of other things, too. We won't dive into all of it today, but that's what future episodes are for. This is going to hyper-focus on a few things specifically. Today, I want to talk college football playoff. We'll talk NFL at another time. Today, we're talking college football playoff. And the reason I want to bring this to our first episode of this brand new season is because it's something that's been weighing heavily on my mind. The college football playoff to me is an absolute mess. I think it's an absolute mess for most people. For me specifically, when I say that the college football playoff is an absolute mess, here's what I mean by that. I think that you have too much controversy still with teams that maybe deserve to be in that are not there. This was one of the reasons they expanded the playoff in the first place, was because 4 teams was not enough. So they wanted to expand it so that it felt like, all right, what about that team sitting there in 5th or 6th place that maybe still deserves to be there? We want to give them an opportunity to be in. Well, that has fixed that part of it. But I think you're always going to run into the issue of There's going to be teams that feel like they deserve it that aren't there. How do we fix that? How do we fix that part of it? I think there's a lot more problems with it. I mean, obviously, there's teams that could deserve to make it that didn't make it. BYU and Notre Dame, for example, were the two teams that everyone felt really deserved to be there that didn't actually make it there. The other problem that we're running into, and this is brought up more specifically now based on where we're at in the college football playoff, the bye weeks led to your top 4 teams, of course, getting the bye, right? And then those games showed us something where only one school made it through. Indiana, the only school to make it through that had a bye week. The question on everyone's mind is maybe a little bit of rest versus rust, I think we'll call it. And I think that's a good way to put it, is rest versus rust. When you have a long break like that, then you do start to question, is it really a good break for us? Are we going to be out of shape? Are we going to be untrained? Are we going to be undisciplined when we get back into these games? And it's very possible that the answer to that is yes. Now, the other thing could be, hey, we're well rested. We have a lot of guys that were, dinged up. It's been a long season, so it's nice to get them back into the lineup where they're actually healthy. And that's where the rest comes in. But again, it's rest versus rust. Are you rested? Are you ready to play? Or are you rusty and you need a little action to get you back into it? There's a reason why a lot of college football teams will play down. FBS will play an FCS team to start the season because sometimes you just got to get those gears moving. You got to grease it, right? You got to grease up those gears, get it ready for the season as you get into the conference play where it really matters. You don't have that in the playoffs. What you have instead are these teams who they have gone through a gauntlet of football and they play hardcore up until last week of November or maybe first week of December if you're going into a conference championship, and then you have to take a break, sometimes 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, it could be very long for some of these teams. You look at Indiana and Ohio State. They played head-to-head on December 6th. Okay, Ohio State loses that game, whatever. They're still a top 2 team, and so they go in as one of the teams that get a bye through the first week of the playoffs, and they go straight to the Cotton Bowl. Now in the Cotton Bowl, they get embarrassed by Miami. Miami wins that game 24-14. Okay. The stretch of time from the 6th to the 31st is, in my opinion, entirely too long. 3.5 weeks is way too much time to have off, especially in football. It's just too much time to have off. Okay. It shouldn't be happening that way. So that's another one of the issues, right? Rest versus rust. Too much time between games. And it's not just for those teams. I think this could be said for all of the teams. Whether it is a team that is like Ohio State or Indiana or any of the other top 4 teams, they go through a little too much time, for sure. Everybody does, though. That's the problem. It's not just the top 4. It's everybody. Take a look at a team like, let's go with Oregon, for example, okay? Their final game of the season was back on November 29th, and they didn't have a game again until December 20th. So they go a solid 3 weeks without a game because they weren't in the conference championship. So they've got 3 weeks. Now, obviously, they put away James Madison. That was fine. Not an issue there. But the thing is, James Madison went through the exact same thing Oregon did, where they take 3 weeks off. I love the idea. And this is where we come up with solutions, okay? I love the idea of fixing the amount of time between games, between the end of season to the playoffs. I'll tell you how in a minute. One more thing that I have is a problem, okay? The last problem. And this is one that I saw talked about somewhere else. I don't remember where. I would love to give them credit, but I just don't remember where. It was scrolling social media, and so it was probably posted in a podcast somewhere. But the idea that there's no notoriety, and this is probably bottom of the totem pole, by the way, with problems that I have with the college football playoff. There's no notoriety in the college football playoff. It's a national championship, and that's all it's called. And again, somebody made this point, not me. There's a national championship in every single collegiate sport. There's a national championship in women's soccer, a national championship in lacrosse, in swimming, in whatever sport, you name it, there's a national championship for it. It's not special to just call it college football national championship or the college football playoff. Like, that is what it is. It's exactly what it is. It's not the Super Bowl. It's not the Final Four. College basketball at least has the Final Four. They've got the men's version and the women's version. It's Final Four. I love that. You have the Super Bowl. You have the World Series. You have all these different things through the world of sports. The Stanley Cup. But what you don't have is just a good name for the college football playoff, and it probably deserves it, seeing that it's one of the most followed leagues of sports in the United States. And I'm going to call it its own league. It's basically the minor leagues of the NFL. College football is its own league. Okay. All right. Let's get on into how do we fix this. All right. We've set up our problem. What are the solutions? Here is what I would do to fix it. Okay. This is Caden's version. This is how I'm going to fix the college football playoff. First up, we're going to expand it to 16 teams. Why are we going to make it 16 teams as opposed to 12? Number one, nobody gets a bye week through the first week. You don't need it. I don't think anyone needs it. I don't think it's deserved. If anything, the one thing you do get is home field advantage, right? So you can get that home field advantage through the first round of the playoffs. Home sites are going to be a thing. When you're knocking it down from 16 teams to 8 teams, it's all going to be played at the home site of those top 8 teams. And you can seed it exactly as you would with any other 16-team playoff. 1 is going to play against 16, 2 is going to play 15, so on and so forth. 8's going to play 9. That's the easy way to do it. This fixes a couple of things. Number one, this fixes the rest versus rust in some ways because now, obviously, you don't get that bye week for some of those teams. And then you also have a few more slots available to throw in teams like BYU and Notre Dame. That gives you the ability to keep teams around like JMU, like Tulane, because let's be real, I think those spots probably deserved to go to BYU and Notre Dame. I think those are the better teams for the fit there, but you have to try to show Group of 4 some love. I get that. I think you can still show them love with this while still leaving some spots open for these teams that deserve it. Okay, so I think that fixes those few things. 16 teams, and the good thing about this is you're not running any more rounds of the playoffs than you really would anyway. You're just avoiding a few of those teams getting buys. And now they don't. They just play a game against some other competition. So, how do you now avoid the teams that are like your Oregons, for example, who didn't play at all from November 29th till December 20th? Well, here's what you do. November 29th, final game of the season. Fair. You're going to take that. Everybody's got that. That's the final Saturday of the regular season. Then you go to January 6th this year, and I'm just using 2025 as an example. The 6th is going to be the conference championship week. Okay. Some teams will get buys through this week in a way because they're not playing the conference championship. These are going to be teams like, your SEC teams and your Big Ten teams specifically that are not a part of the conference championship, but they're good enough to make the college football playoff. You get a few of those, it is what it is. So the next week, December 13th, week 1 of the college football playoff. Dive right on into this thing. Okay. Get right on into it. There's no reason for us to wait. All right. There could be other bowl games going on around the same time. That's fine. Okay. This almost kicks off bowl season. You're kicking it off strong. Bowl season kicks off with the first round of the college football playoff. Okay. First week. And you could play these over a stretch of maybe that first Friday and Saturday. That's fine by me. So the 12th, 13th, you're playing your first round of games at home sites. Kicks off bowl season. You get some other bowl games thrown in here as well throughout the next week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's still some other games being played. Then you get into the quarterfinals. I think quarterfinals can still be played at home sites. Potentially, you could play these at neutral sites. I kind of don't care about that part as much. I do like the first round being home sites, though. It gives a little home field advantage for the top 8 teams, which is deserved. I think you need that. Quarterfinals could be home sites. I'm fine with that as well. And then that takes you into the next week, all right? Around December 20th. Obviously, you're going to have holidays that'll throw a wrench into some of this at some point in the future, but you've got the stretch of the next few weeks where you can play the semifinal games. These can be bowl games. These are neutral site games. I think that these are games, these are like your, I don't know if you want to call it if this is going to be your Cotton Bowl game, for example. Maybe that's that kind of game, sure. But ultimately, it ends in the championship, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day games. And this is where the championship takes place. And I think that's the Rose Bowl. I think the Rose Bowl is your Super Bowl. So every year, it's who's playing in the Rose Bowl. Is in tandem, you're just saying who's playing in the championship. Rose Bowl is championship. It's the most iconic venue in sports. Let's be real. I know that the stadium needs some work. If you've been to Pasadena and you've seen the Rose Bowl, I know it's old. I know it's kind of falling apart. It needs some work. It is still iconic. Okay, you got the Rose Parade, everything going on that day. It just makes sense that that would be the championship location. Now, what that does is a few things. Number one is you're avoiding rest versus rust. You're diving right on in. Everybody's got to do it too. Everybody has to just run with this. You don't get rest. You're just going straight from regular season to playoffs, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I think the players are okay with that. I think fans are okay with it. I think everyone's okay with this. I would say. So it goes all the way up to the Rose Bowl. That's your championship location every year. It's a place of notoriety, and it's a way to at least give some sort of a name to what the championship is. So the college football playoff is done by New Year's Day. That's the final game. Every single year, New Year's Day is going to be championship football. You know that for a fact. That then fixes another problem that comes up for a lot of teams, which is the start of the college football season with transfer portals, with coaches, with everything going on is always the beginning of the year anyway. Now you don't have to worry about, hey, we've got players that are playing in the college football playoffs that want to go into the transfer portal, but they can't. They're going to get a late jump on it because they're still currently playing. You avoid all of that completely, which I think is a win for your programs and for recruitment. And it's also a win for the players because now the players who do want to transfer somewhere, they're not getting beat out by people by these other student athletes that are already done with their season, right? They're already on the transfer trail to say, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. These are some of the goals I want to accomplish. Those teams, those coaches, those players that are a part of the college football playoff miss out on that first rush of the transfer portal. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to anybody who's a part of that. Even though, yes, they are some of the best teams in the country, they could probably figure it out. They can navigate it. It makes it so it's just not a problem. It's just not a problem. You're not dealing with it. It's not going to be an issue. So that is my stance on the college football playoff. 16 teams. You start it immediately as soon as conference championships are done. It's the very next week. You're into the playoff. Everything's wrapped up and put a bow on it by New Year's Day. Rose Bowl is the final location for the championship every single year. That's my thoughts on that. There are some problems that come up with that. I will admit, your New Year's 6 games, what do you do about those? Because now the top teams are eliminated at this point. Yeah. that is unfortunate. I will say that's not perfect. But would we rather have our teams playing in a notable bowl game on New Year's Day, or would you rather have them have everything ready to go so that the championship can happen then? It just feels like it's all too expanded out right now. It's too stretched. It's too much. I think that something needs to happen, and I don't know what the exact solution is. That's my take on it. That's what I think could be a good idea. It's not necessarily going to be the idea that happens. It's not going to be the thing that everyone rolls with, but I like it. I think it's a good one, personally. I think it's a good way to do it. So we'll see. We'll see if it changes. We've got time, and I hope it does. I just hope that for the sake of college football, something changes. Speaking of college football, coming up on Thursday is Ole Miss in Miami, and then Oregon, Indiana is on Friday. And I got to say, I'm excited about Oregon, Indiana. I'm a Ducks fan, so go Ducks for sure when it comes down to this Oregon and Indiana game. Indiana got the best of Oregon the first time around. I would not be surprised if they do it again and we see the Hoosiers in the championship. I'm just saying. I'd like to say I have more hope for my team, but I'm not sold. But we'll see. We'll see. Ole Miss, Miami, that is an interesting one. It's a 6 versus 10. Hey, you know what? These two teams would not have been here if we only had 4 teams in the college football playoff. So, in fact, 3 of the 4 teams left would not be there with a 4-team college football playoff. This makes it so much more interesting. I love it. I'm glad they expanded it out. It's still not perfect. We'll get there. We'll get there. It'll be fun. Thank you for either watching or listening. This is a video on YouTube as well. So if you're listening to this in podcast platform, you can watch this over on the Fan Sports Network YouTube page. Just look for From the Bleachers. There's a playlist called From the Bleachers. You can find it there. You can also find it on the fansportsnetwork.com. And you can then, of course, listen to this wherever it is that you find your podcast. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the different places that you listen to your podcast. You can find this one as well. So I appreciate you listening. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can come back for more when we have another episode coming at you. Again, it's a new year, so there's some revitalized energy here in the studio to bring you some more content. And this has been From the Bleachers. I've been Caden Formaster. Until next time, we'll see you.